This week we are reading Knockout Beauty and Other Afflictions by Marina Rubin.
My name is Alina Adams. I was born in Odessa, USSR. I wrote 3 books set in the Soviet Union. My daughter was born in America. I'm going to tell her about the Soviet experience through books.
Now, this is a collection of short stories. Again, we tend to do novels, but I really like these short stories. And I met Marina Rubin. She came to my book launch. She is awesome. You guys should follow her on Instagram. She has some great photos. I want to read you this summary of her short stories, and then I have a question for you. You ready? The profound man in a fedora examines the depths and reality of friendship. In Smorgas, a woman's relentless quest to have it all hurls her into a passionate and intricate relationship with 2 men who happen to be best friends. A shopaholic is engaged in a torrid affair with a married poet in the fan-favorite Valentino. A reluctant bride contemplates suicide at the thought of her impending nuptials in the award-winning Good People Make Bad Couples. Who to Call in Case of Emergency is a unique take on the Me Too movement, which, by the way, was my favorite story. It really was a fresh take. I'd never read anything quite like it. And You Can Live With This Nose is a conversation about plastic surgery overheard at an LGBTQ synagogue. So I've read you a summary of some of these stories. This isn't all of them. What do you hear and what do you not hear?
I hear some good representation in terms of, like, Judaism we have, and LGBTQ. And women. I didn't hear, like, some not white or Slavic people. I can't assume that all the couples are...
Yes, you're definitely on the right track. So here's a book by Marina Rubin, who is a Soviet immigrant, as I am. And the reason we're doing this on this channel is because Marina Rubin fits into the category of authors and books that we cover. But none of these stories are specifically about Soviet immigrants. So I want to talk about this. Everyone talks about representation matters. Mm-hmm. You even brought that up. Everybody talks about write what you know. But also everybody talks kind of stay on your own side, stay in your own box, write only about what you know. And what I loved about these stories is I do think Marina's post-Soviet sensibility comes through. It's not about that. So how do we get both diversity and write only about what you know?
I see this a lot. I feel like when people like lobby to have more representation in their books, and then they are reading it and it's not necessarily what they expected, because A, is someone who's not in that community and is trying to write representation, and it's just like, you can be trying to do it in the most respectful way, but at the end of the day, like, how much do you really know if you don't live in, or someone close to you doesn't really live it?
Let me tell you some feedback I have gotten on my books. For instance, I have been told that I do not know how immigrant families work, because clearly my immigrant experience didn't match with their immigrant experience. I have also been told that I don't know how interracial relationships work. How do they work, Aries? That's true. So it's kind of interesting. You mentioned sensitivity readers, and then you get feedback. And when even your niche experience doesn't match someone else's niche experience, then you're told, well, that's inauthentic. For instance, I was told, did you know that no Soviet Jewish family would ever accept if their daughter married an African-American man?
Who knew? I'm just stunned with what? I've got no words.
I was like, you didn't know that. I didn't know that, but apparently the reader who wrote a review knew that. And the fact is, just like there's so many different stories in Marina Rubin's book, you can't say, oh, you told that character wrong, because that character can only be one thing. Mm-hmm. So that is actually something that I loved about this book, that she wasn't afraid to take on, or to have a bookmark, that she wasn't afraid to write stories that weren't just to her own very narrow, limited niche experience, of which other people would say, no, that's not narrow enough. You have to go into that. So as a reader, I'm a writer, you're a reader. Well, I'm a big reader too, as you can tell from all these books. As a reader, do you ever get a feeling when you're reading that the author really doesn't know the community they're writing about? Or the flip side, do you find that they're writing about a community that you know very much about and it doesn't feel authentic?
Well, I always go out of my way to read romance written by women. I just think it's like, usually better?
Oh, absolutely. I actually have made a point most recently of if I'm choosing between books and I really can't decide, I tend to go for the one written by a woman. I've never been sorry by that decision. So if you'd like a Soviet perspective on some not particularly Soviet or post-Soviet stories, knock out Beauty and Other Afflictions by Marina Rubin.